we go. Okay. Can we have the tribal council up front, please? Shane?
Step forward.
Missing Chief. Travis, Chief here?
Are we all there? I saw him here earlier, but I don't know where he's at now.
Okay.
Chief! 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 Come on! Chief! Chief!
Boney Peter? Yeah.
Now we can get started. Okay, this is the chief's song. So at the beginning of the first beat of the drum, you may rise. Otherwise, you can sit down too if you want.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jean. Thank you to the drum group.
Most colors.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Thank you, Honor Guard. All right.
Red.
Good to go. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 2019 State of the Band. I'd also like to welcome those watching our live stream on YouTube. The video or the event will be live, and then it'll be recorded and available to watch on our YouTube channel as well. For those who might be new to the building, just so you know, the restrooms are located right outside these main doors. And if you go to the right, before you hit the casino doors, the restrooms will be on your right. Next, I'd like to introduce some special guests that we have with us this afternoon. First, we have Melanie Benjamin, Chief Executive for the Mille Lacs Band. Eugene Tibbetts, Acting Chair for White Earth. Alan Roy, Secretary Treasurer for Mille Lacs Band. I'm sorry, for White Earth. It says Mille Lacs. Representative Pete Stauber. Mr. Bill Spang, President of Northern State Bank. April McCormick, Secretary Treasurer for Grand Portage, I hope. Okay. Marie Spry. Farron Jackson, Chairman, Leech Lake. Mary Otto, Tribal Liaison for the Minnesota Department of Commerce. Wendy Stevens, American Bank. John Skelton, St. Louis County Sheriff's Office. Nate Skelton, also St. Louis County Sheriff's Office. Levi Brown, Minnesota Tribal Liaison for MnDOT. Raven Gibbs, Senator from Senator Tina Smith's office. Paul McDonald, St. Louis County Commissioner. Dan Manick, Chair of the School Board for 2142. Steve White from Leech Lake District Rep. And Chris Ismail from the IRRR. Also, Ida Rekavina. Thank you all for being here. So unfortunately, a couple of our invited guests weren't able to attend, but they were able to send videos to share with us all tonight. So I'd like to share the first video now, and this is from Senator Tina Smith.
Hi, I'm Senator Tina Smith. Miigwech to Bois Forte Chair Kathy Chavers for inviting me to join you at the State of the Band address. And thank you for your leadership and your partnership, not just as chair of the Bois Forte Band, but as president of the Minnesota Chippewa tribes also. So I spoke with Chair Chavers at Bois Forte about how the recent federal shutdown has affected the band. And I heard how leaders, many of you in the room today, were forced to make tough budget decisions while figuring out how to keep critical programs going and how to pay employees like law enforcement officers. So I've said this over and over, but it bears repeating. These shutdowns are unnecessary, they are wasteful, and deeply harmful. And you know better than anyone that Native communities are among the hardest hit. The federal government abdicates its trust responsibility when lapses in federal funding force tribes to fill in the gaps when it comes to health care, child care, and nutrition assistance. And you also know that the consequences of a shutdown in Indian country last long after the government reopens. So with these challenges in mind, and out of deep respect for the legal relationship between sovereign tribes and the federal government, I helped introduce a bill led by New Mexico Senator and Vice Chair of the Indian Affairs Committee, Tom Udall, to provide advance funds for critical programming in Indian country. Our bill would authorize funding 1 year in advance for programs within the Indian Health Service and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We need to do this so tribal nations have budget certainty for health care and education, law enforcement, and other essential functions. Before I go, I want to reaffirm that I take my position on the Senate Indian Affairs Committee very seriously, as I follow in the footsteps of progressive Minnesota senators like Al Franken and Paul Wellstone. I'll keep working to lift up the voices of Minnesota's 11 Ojibwe and Dakota nations, Minnesota's important urban indigenous population, and sovereign tribal nations all across the country. I'm guided by the legal and moral principles of self-determination and self-governance for tribal nations, and my lifelong experience that those who do the work know best what will work. Tribal governments know best what your community needs and how the federal government should fulfill its trust responsibility in Indian country. The health and well-being of the Bois Forte Band, improving education and housing for your community, and protecting your sovereignty are at the top of my mind. So thank you so much. I'm honored to work with all of you, and I hope you have a great State of the Band.
All right, thank you to Senator Smith's office. Next we have a video from Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Hello to everyone gathered for the Bois Forte State of the Band. I think you know I'd much rather be there with you in person, but there's just a few things going on. I want to thank Tribal Chairwoman Kathy Chavers, Secretary-Treasurer David Morrison, representatives of the tribe, and of course all the men and women of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa. This annual event demonstrates the strength of your community and your deep dedication to improving the lives of your members. It shows a commitment to make every year better than the last. I've always believed that Minnesota's strength comes from the diversity of our people, and the history and traditions of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa is a vibrant part of life in our state. You're improving the state's economy through businesses like the Wilderness Golf Course, Bois Forte Wild Rice, and Fortune Bay Resort and Casino. And you're an advocate for tribal issues, the economic rights, economic development, and, of course, all of the work that you do to make sure that you maintain, by working with us, your sovereignty. Thank you for all you do to strengthen our state. That's why throughout my time in the Senate, I've worked to make sure your voice is heard. Time and again, we've worked together on many important issues. Our Native American tribes have a unique and sacred government-to-government relationship with the United States that is deeply rooted in treaties, the law, and the Constitution. This relationship demands a federal commitment to improving the health and well-being of tribal communities. Sovereignty means continuing to protect funding for the Indian Health Service. It also means taking action against opioid abuse. No matter where I go in our state, including our tribal lands, I hear heartbreaking stories about how the opioid epidemic is hurting families. Our first goal is to do more to prevent addiction to begin with. That means stopping overprescribing opioids and curbing the kind of doctor shopping that facilitates addiction. I know that our second goal needs to be cracking down on the people who sell and distribute these drugs And our third goal, to me, is the most important, getting people the treatment they need. That's why I led landmark bipartisan bills like the CARA bill that encourages states and communities, including in Indian country, to pursue a variety of prevention and treatment strategies. And while there is progress, there's still more to do. So last year, I also introduced CARA 2.0 with a bipartisan group of senators to build on the momentum of our first bill and ensure that states receiving certain federal funding have strong prescription drug monitoring programs, pass the Lifeboat Act, which makes pharma be accountable and pay for treatment. Finally, we have to invest in our rural communities and our tribal lands. One good way to do this is by expanding broadband. A tribal member told me that one day when he came home, all the kids were doing their homework in the front yard. Why? Because that family had gotten the broadband. We must partner with the National Telecommunications and Information Administration to improve the accuracy of broadband. While I'm glad to share progress in Minnesota, we have a long way to go. We can do this. We can help people who live in Indian country like yourselves be on the same level as everyone else. I'll end with this. There's an Ojibwe saying that says you make best decisions not for this generation, but for 7 generations from now. And I think that's exactly how we'll continue to bring more opportunity to your communities and the region. We will hold the government accountable, and we will continue to make sure this year and all the years after are even better than the first. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Unfortunately, Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, weren't able to attend today, but they were able to send a letter. I'm sorry, we have one more person to introduce, and that is Ray Aganash Sr. from White Earth, a district rep. So at this time, we're going to read the letter sent by Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Dear leaders and members of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa, we thank you for extending the warm invitation to attend the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa State of the Band. As we are unable to personally attend today's State of the Band address, we write to share a few words as we continue to work together, government to government, with the leaders and members of Bois Forte Band of Chippewa. Last week, we reached the 100th day milestone for our administration, and we are eager to continue building a long, meaningful partnership with the tribal communities in Minnesota. We would like to thank Chairwoman Chavers and the leaders of the Bois Forte Band for your leadership and input over the last 4 months as we transitioned into our new roles as Governor and Lieutenant Governor and began building our administration. We were disappointed earlier this year when our planned trip to Bois Forte was canceled due to a snowstorm and frigid temperatures. However, we were grateful to have Chairwoman Chavers join us as our special guest during the Governor's first State of the State address. Meaningful consultation with all 11 tribal governments is critical to our success as leaders of this state. We are fully invested in deepening the partnership with Bois Forte and its members as we collectively work to advance the well-being of Native people across the state. Leading up to our time in office, we traveled the state to hear from the people, communities, and tribal nations directly affected by the decisions made by state government in order to help us hire commissioners, craft our budget, and identify policy priorities. We are grateful for the time Bois Forte leaders and members spent with us in this process. It was abundantly clear that all Minnesotans value education, healthcare, and community prosperity, and that is what our proposed One Minnesota budget reflects. We believe a budget is not only a fiscal document, but a moral document as well. Our shared core values led to strong investments that prioritize children, families, and our state's most vulnerable populations. We're particularly proud to have Indian country represented in our budget. A few of these proposals include support for the use of traditional healers and the work being done in the Native community to provide traditional, rehabilitative, and restorative services to increase access to culturally specific services as we address the opioid epidemic. Investments in trainings at the Minnesota Department of Transportation that support our commitment to respect treaty rights and tribal sovereignty across all levels of state government. Investments to stabilize and equalize funding for American Indian tribal schools for the first time to ensure our state better serves American Indian students. Support for culturally specific reentry programs for Indigenous people who are incarcerated so that they have the tools they need to successfully reenter communities and reconnect with families. Funding for the formation of a task force on missing and murdered Indigenous women to address the growing crisis facing our Indigenous communities across our state and country. These community-driven and intentional investments will help advance the goals of Native communities across Minnesota and improve our entire state. But we also know they are just the beginning. We are now focused on working with the Minnesota legislature to pass these proposed investments that lift up Indian country into law and encourage you to join this important conversation. Building on the important work of the Dayton administration, we are proud to announce that the governor has signed a historic executive order to ensure the state of Minnesota and the 11 tribal governments engage in true government-to-government relationships built on respect, understanding, and sovereignty. We have made a commitment to engage in meaningful consultation with the tribal governments in our state, and this order will ensure that our office and every state agency continues to do so. We know that for too long, policy has been done to our tribal communities instead of with them. This order will change that. Written in consultation with all 11 tribes, this new and expanded order requires the following. Every state agency to designate a tribal liaison, develop and implement tribal consultation policies, work with tribal nations to identify priority issues, and submit them to the office of the governor and the lieutenant governor by October 1st of each year. Each commissioner, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, and all agency employees whose work is likely to impact Minnesota tribal nations to attend tribal state relations training. We are hoping to build change and impact that lasts long after we're gone. With your partnership, we aim to set up the systems and structures necessary to ensure government-to-government relationships are healthy, just, and strong, and to ensure that Indian country prospers. We are grateful for the incredible work you all do every day to advance the lives of Native and non-Native Minnesotans to improve our state. We know the work we've done so far in our new roles as governor and lieutenant governor is better because of our meaningful relationship with the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa. So thank you to Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. All right, so now I would like to invite up Chairwoman. The invocation? Okay. Now? Okay. Okay. All right, next I'd like to ask up Chairwoman Kathy Chavers.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to do a special recognition, and I'd like to have Dave, Chief, and Shane and Travis come forward, please, in the front. We have a very honored guest with us tonight, and I met this young lady last year at the Duluth Urban Picnic, and I was so impressed with her. Oh my goodness, that little baby's mad. I was just so impressed with her that tonight we've decided to honor her. And if I could have Alice Iverson and her son Paul come forward into the middle here. Alice? I know. Okay, hang on. She said, I'll be right with you. For those of you that don't know Alice, she joined the U.S. Marine Reserve, the Women's Marines, in 1943 and served for 2 years at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. She's been has been very active in the VFW. One of Alice's high points was meeting John Kerry and leading the Pledge of Allegiance at the kickoff of his Minnesota campaign in Cloquet. For those of you that don't know, Alice was born April 21st, 1920, so she just turned 99 years old. Yeah. Alice is our longest living World War II veteran. We have a special presentation on behalf of the Tribal Council here for Alice. And, okay, hang on, Dave's got to open the box. We're going to present Alice with this blanket. We'll wrap it around her. And I made it. When we're done wrapping Alice, if all the veterans would like to come up and shake Alice's hand and give her a hug, we'd appreciate it. Oh, geez. Can you see it? Yeah, it's beautiful.
We have to get you a hell of a bed.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it around you, okay? Where are you? Not you.
Boy, she is now.
All the veterans, jump forward, please. Dinner.
While our veterans are acknowledging Alice, I would like to say when we first built the monuments up in that lake to honor our veterans, we had a number of our, we had about 5 or 6 of our World War II vets were still living, and since we built the monuments, we ended up losing all of them except Alice, and so we always really appreciated all our veterans, no matter who they were or where they were from or the color of their skin. And I'm really glad that I got to know Alice. I met Alice at one of our community gatherings at Duluth, and then I found out that she was a World War II vet, and so I got a chance to meet her and talk with her. And there was an article that we had in our Bois Forte newspaper about Alice's career, and we don't have a copy of it here tonight, but maybe what we'll do is we'll rerun the article, and we really appreciate her service to our country, and we also we really appreciate the service that you veterans that are coming up here and acknowledging Alice. And I know Alan Roy from the Secretary of Treasury here, who's here tonight. He's a veteran himself, and I know that he's spearheading a program to help all veterans across the state of Minnesota. And but I'd like to. I'm planning to get with Alan in the near future and talk with him and help him with his project, because all the respect and admiration that I have for our veterans is, I just hold that deeply in my heart. And I always like it when we have Veterans Day and we have our ceremony for our veterans to honor them. That's one of the highlights of my year. And I know that we have a lot of veterans from Bois Forte, and we're starting to lose a lot of our veterans over the years. And a lot of them, are combat veterans. I know I have a lot of my relatives that were served in Vietnam. But I also had an uncle that I never got a chance to meet. His name was Joe Goggleye, but they called him Joe Gawkey. And he was killed in action in Korea in 1951. And I was born in 1955, but my father always talked about him when him and Joe were young and walking and raising heck on the reservation up in that lake. But I wish I had a chance to meet him, but like I said, I never got a chance to meet him. He was killed before I was born. But I know on behalf of the Tribal Council, I really respect and want to thank all the veterans that are here tonight. I want to thank the drum group for singing the song for our veterans. And again, I really appreciate Alice being here tonight. Okay. As soon as we get done with the veterans coming through, we're going to have Jean wants to sing an honor song on behalf of Alice. So again, I really want to thank you guys for being here today, all the veterans that are in the room. And I want to thank, again, just thank yous for being here and taking the time to come to today's State of the Band. But again, thank you, and we'll be having an honor song shortly. we're going to let Alice say a few words.
Thank you. I just can't believe this. Nothing's ever happened like this to me before, and it's fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you.
What an honor.
What a sweet gal. At this point in time, I'd like to ask Peter, AKA Chief Boney, to come up to the podium, and he's got a few words he'd like to say.
Good evening. Kind of nervous about this. Couple reasons. I got some guys from the Minnesota Chippewa tribe sitting out there, and they're really good speakers. I was going to tell that. I was going to tell. Excuse me. I was going to buy some hairspray, but I remember your story, so I just went natural. What I'm up here for is acknowledgement of our staff. Without our staff, most of this couldn't be possible. We do have some awesome staff that do go above and beyond the call of duty. We do have people that work, 60 hours a week with 40-hour pay, and take their work home with them. So with that, I'd just like to start in. If you're here, if you work for these departments, please stand up. Could you wait till the end, though, to give them a round of applause? First off is our tribal chair lady, Kathy. Kathy is also the president of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. All right. Next we have David Morrison, Secretary Treasurer. He's also, I believe, Secretary Treasurer of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. Treasurer. Okay. Travis Morrison, District 1. Oh, there he is. Shane Drift, District 1. That's our tribal council. Next, I'm going to go our executive director, new executive director. I would like to remind everybody, Jenna Letty. All right, now we're going to go into the departments, and there's no specific rhyme or reason. I just wrote the names down as they come into my head, and there's not a lot of room up there. So, Public Works, Joel Asselford, and any of his staff that here, please. Human Resources, Miranda Lydia. I got it. Housing, Teresa Morrison. Any of her staff? Health and Human Services, Dan Milbridge. I don't believe Dan is here tonight. Education is Billy Mason. Isham. Says Mason, whoever wrote it. Sorry. Environmental, Tara Gizik. Planning, Andy Datko. Andy will be leaving us soon too, but Andy's been here a long time. IT, Randy Long. Accounting, Kim Greiner. Also, our the other chief, Jamie Burdick, our BIA police officers. Our urban offices, we'll start with Duluth, which is Wendy Drift. Minneapolis urban office, or Twin Cities, Jackie Wilson. And we also have an office in the Falls, I do believe, right? And a Cheyenne farmer. Sorry if that's wrong. As I go through the next here, we're going to talk about a little bit about our businesses, which is Rick Anderson, our CEO, Fortune Bay. Brian Anderson, Director of Sales and Public Relations. She's not on here anymore. Ryan McKeon? Ryan McKeon, Director of Marketing. Sorry about that, Ryan. I just know you as Ryan. Todd Montgomery, Director of Surveillance. Rocky King. Director of Facilities. Garrett Lampa, Director of Hospitality. Alex Cook, Director of IT. EJ Deegan, Director of Gaming. Brad Anderson, our Controller. These are just some of our staff. We do have other businesses, C-Store, Y-Store, Wheelie Radio, KFTB, KBFT. Okay, I'm really good at this. But most of all, I think I'd like to thank the band members that supported us and got us to where we're at. Without the band members, we wouldn't be here tonight. We wouldn't be where we're at. Again, thank you very much.
All right, next we're going to have District 1 Representative Shane Drift.
Oops. How are you all doing? Good? All right. Kind of cold in here, right? Huh? Somebody's tablet here in the way. Before we get started, I'd just like to take a moment of silence. We had some people pass away within the community, within the reservation, so I'd just like to take a moment of silence for them, to acknowledge them, to respect them. We had some people pass away within the community, in the reservation, and I'd just like to take a moment of silence to honor them and respect them. Thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and get started here. Bonjour, Shane Indigenous Cause. A dick and doon dam. Bungie at the go, Tinata Nishna Bemawin. Nimin Wendam Ayanama. Nimin Wendam Nigi Wabamek. On behalf of the Tribal Council and myself, I would like to welcome you all to the Bois Forte 2018 State of the Band. It is an honor to speak with you tonight. I have been in office for 7 months now. Since then, I have learned a great deal, but I know that I have a lot more to learn about our tribal government, casino, tribal programs, businesses. I know that things take time. The process sometimes takes too long, and sometimes it gets frustrating, especially with me being a new council member. We have taken steps in the right direction regarding our businesses, financial reserves, and communication with you, the band members. We know that our tribe tried to expand its business ventures when it purchased Power Rain, Tim Hortons, the Y Express Lube, and WLY. The Tribal Council had a good idea when they purchased these businesses. Unfortunately, these businesses did not work out as planned. What I have learned from this is that the band members should have a voice when it comes to purchasing or creating a new business. The band members need to be a part of the decision-making process. This is why I asked for a resolution regarding band members' input on any new businesses that the Tribal Council is considering. This resolution will ensure that band members will know about the new business proposals before the final decision is made. I'm happy to report that we as a Tribal Council agreed on this resolution. Even though past business ventures did not work out as planned, we still need to plan for the future. We still need to look at creating new business opportunities. It's a given, it's a must. I've learned that back in 2004, our tribe had over $10 million. This showed me that the tribe had the capability to save money. I sent an email to the other tribal council members saying that we need to build a financial reserve for the tribal government and Fortune Bay Casino. The other tribal council members agreed on this. We as a tribal council are laying the groundwork on building a financial reserve for the tribal government and Fortune Bay. We are in a process of creating a resolution to safeguard the financial reserves. If a tribal council is going to access the financial reserves, the tribal council must inform you, the band members, of why they're accessing the financial reserves. This resolution is about transparency and responsibility. We also have made it a requirement for the Health and Human Services Director position to create a financial reserve for the Health and Human Services Department. It took a long time for our tribe to get in this situation, and it will take a long time for our tribe to get out of this situation. We as a tribal council are working together so that history doesn't repeat itself. We are looking out for the best interest of the band and our future. We as a tribal council must improve our transparency, work on being more accountable, and strengthen our communication and commitment to you, the Bois Forte band members. We need to challenge ourselves to do better. We can and will do better. I would like to take it one step further with what Chief acknowledged the various departments. And I would like to also acknowledge them as well. Public Works, IT, Court, Education, Head Start, Daycare, Health and Human Services, the DNR Department, Big Woods Transit, Human Resources, the Housing Department, Fortune Bay Resort and Casino, the Police Department, the Nut Lake C Store, the Y Store, the Ledge, WLY, KBFT, the Duluth Urban Office, the Minneapolis Urban Office, the Nut Lake and Vermilion Boys and Girls Club, the Planning Department, the Accounting Department, the Heritage Center and Cultural Museum, the Nut Lake and Vermilion Powell Committees, the Fire Department, and our ambulance service. Thank you for what you are doing. You guys are doing a great job. I would also like to acknowledge Louise Isham and staff for putting the 2019 State of the Band together. You guys did a good job. I look forward to talking with you and listening to your concerns, issues, and problems. I also look forward to hearing your suggestions, ideas, and thoughts. Please don't hesitate to contact me for whatever reason. Feel free to stop by my office anytime. My door is open. You can also call me and email me. You can also join my Facebook group. My group name is Shane Drift, District 1 Representative Updates. I post updates frequently to keep you, the band members, informed. With that, we hope that you will continue to enjoy the rest of the 2019 State of the Band. In closing, on behalf of the Tribal Council and myself, we would like to wish you and your loved ones a safe trip back home. Mi'u, miigwech, bizendawieg.
Thank you, Shane. Next, we'll have Secretary-Treasurer David Morrison.
Them other guys are kind of short, so anyway. They tease each other about who's shorter, and they say they like to sit there in a chair and then dangle their legs like that. So, but it's fun to be on the council with these guys. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming here today and being part of the State of the Band of 2019. And I too would also like to, before I begin, I would like to pay tribute to a gentleman that he's a conservation officer for the state of Minnesota. His name was Eugene Wynn, and he passed away on Friday, April 19th of 2019, just last week. He passed away in the line of duty in a boat rescue, search rescue, and the boat, him and another officer fell out of the boat, and he ended up drowning. And he leaves behind a wife and 2 children. So with that, I'd like to take a moment of silence also to recognize him and the conservation officers that serve across our tribal lands and also our state of Minnesota are just as much in the line of duty and threat that the police officers have to go through. They go through the same training, and when needs arise, sometimes they are utilized by the law enforcement programs across the state of Minnesota. And again, this young man passed away. He was an officer since 2002, and right now the state of Minnesota and at Bois Forte, we're flying our flags at half-mast for honor him. But again, at this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence for him. Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the upcoming constitutional convention that the Minnesota Chippewa tribe is in the process of doing. And I'll start out here with, I want to thank you for being here today for the 2019 State of the Band. As Kathy mentioned, the last year has been kind of busy. It was busy. And it's also been busy at the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And right now, the MCT, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, is comprised of 6 bands: the Bois Forte Band, the Grand Portage Band, the Fond du Lac Band, the Leech Lake Band, the Mille Lacs Lake Band, and also the White Earth Band. Through the unified leadership of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, promotes and protects the band members while providing quality services and technical assistance to the reservation governments and to the tribal people. The governing body of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe is the Tribal Executive Committee, which consists of the chairpersons and the secretary-treasurers from each of the reservations. The Tribal Executive Committee meets on a quarterly basis and at special meetings as they are called. In the fall of 2018, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe conducted the election of officers after the tribal elections of 2018. And our very own Kathy Chavers was elected president of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, and she becomes the first woman ever to be elected for the Minnesota Chippewa tribe as its president. So I'd like to give Kathy a round of applause for that. The other officers that are serving currently for the Minnesota Chippewa tribe is Farron Jackson. He's the chairman of Leech Lake, and he was elected the vice chair. April McCormick is the secretary treasurer at Grand Portage, and she was elected to serve as the secretary. And then I was re-elected as the treasurer for the next 2 years. Again, that's why I thank you for, and I thank the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, the tribal council itself, for bestowing me that honor again. For the past 3 years, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe has been in the process of discussing election constitution reform, not election. As you may know, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe constitution was originally adopted in 1936. A revision and amendment constitution was adopted in 1963. The constitution has been amended 4 times, twice in 1972 and twice in 2006. In 2017 and 2018, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe conducted information sessions on each of the 6 reservations, as well as the urban areas of Minneapolis and Duluth. The next step of the process is to organize a Constitution Convention. The Tribal Executive Committee directed each of the bands to select up to 10 delegates to attend the Constitutional Convention. The convention meetings are ongoing on a monthly basis, and they're rotated on each of the 6 reservations. You, as the band member, get involved. We'd like you to get involved with this process and help with the Constitution reform at the Minnesota Chippewa tribe level. Our Constitution and governing structure needs to reflect who we are as Anishinaabe people. We need to succeed in the convention reform effort so our children and our grandchildren have the governing structure that responds to the needs of the people. You most likely visited the Bois Forte, Minnesota Chippewa tribal delegate booth today. The delegates from Bois Forte, and I'm going to name them off, and if they're in the room, I'd like them to stand up, because the responsibility that these delegates have, not only at Bois Forte, but the other 5 reservations, is vital. And they are like we said, they get together monthly, And their meetings start at about 9 o'clock and they finish around 4 or 5 o'clock that afternoon. And they work very hard. They work together, and when they get together, they form little committees amongst each other where they work with another delegate from one of the other reservations, and they're getting the changes that we're looking at the Minnesota Chippewa tribe for our constitution. And so I'm going to name off those members that we have here at Bois Forte. First of all is Sharon Day. If Sharon Day, please stand up. Millie Holmes, Doris Isham, Sidra Starkovich, Mike Connor, Miranda Lilia, Tara Gizik, Tracy Dagan, Muriel Deegan, Sharon Burke, and Maddie Harper. So if they stand up, I'm not sure who's all in, but give them a round of applause because they are very... And I know that the tribal councils from White Earth that are here and Melanie Benjamin from Chief Executive from Mille Lacs, they know how hard this process is and how long it's going to take. And again, we want you to be involved with that process. We need you to be involved with that process. Finally, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe is currently in the process of seeking legislation to transfer title of Minnesota Chippewa tribe lands back to the bands. Shortly after the allotment period ended, there were surplus lands on each reservation that had not been allotted or sold. These lands were restored to the trust status, but were titled to the Minnesota Chippewa tribe lands. They were titled this way, even though the lands were located within the boundaries of the 6 reservations. Our efforts would ensure that the trust lands on our reservations titled properly and held for the benefit of each individual band. At Bois Forte, the land process transfer would result in 32,800 acres of Minnesota Chippewa tribe land being transferred directly back to Bois Forte. The treaties that our ancestors signed reserved our lands for our exclusive use. The land transfer would ensure that the agreements entered by our ancestors and lands reserved by them will be for our band members. Again, I want to stress, that we really need the people of Bois Forte to get involved with the Constitutional Convention. I know there's a link that we have on our website at Bois Forte, and we also have a link at the Minnesota Chippewa tribe that you can go and look up. And if there's any information that you need, you can call our offices and get that information so you can get involved. And don't be afraid to talk to any of these delegates. These delegates are available. They live on the reservation. And contact them if there's questions or comments that you want to be made available to the Constitution. And again, this Constitution is very old, and we'd like to get it revised and get it so it's there for our grandkids. And before I close and turn it over to Kathy, I wanted to say a few words about 2 gentlemen that we lost. And they were both great tribal leaders. In February of 2019, we lost a very great tribal leader and man. He was longtime tribal chair for Grand Portage, Norman Duchamp. And with Norman's leadership, an insight will surely be missed at the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And at the last quarterly meeting, it was proposed a resolution to honor Norman by naming the Minnesota Chippewa tribe headquarters in Cass Lake after him. And right now, Grand Portage is currently conducting a special election to fill the vacancy in the death of Tribal Chairman Norman Duchamp. But Norman served 44 years in tribal government. He served 4 years as tribal council member. He served 14 years as a secretary treasurer and 26 years as the tribal chairman. And that's a long time to serve your people. And like I said, I was very good friends with Norman, and we lost Gilbert Caribou, who was secretary treasurer at Grand Portage, a few years back, and I was really close with both those gentlemen, and we always had good times at our TC meetings, and after our subcommittee meetings on the day one before our TC meeting, we'd always get together and just have a good time and laugh. And then in March of this year, we lost Tribal Chairman Terrence Tibbetts, and everybody knew him as Terry. And he was the tribal chair for the Great White Earth Nation. And I know that the White Earth Tribal Council was going to miss his leadership. And right now, White Earth is also in the process of filling that vacancy as well. But Terry served 8 years as a tribal council member, and he was elected in 2016 as the tribal chair, and he had just almost 3 years of service as a tribal chair. And so with that, I would ask that again that we take another moment of silence for those two tribal leaders, and they're going to be missed. They're surely going to be missed by the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And again, I just want to ask for just a small moment of silence for those two men. Thank you. And then I also like to acknowledge someone, my own personal person. When we first started these State of the Band addresses, each tribal council member got up and talked. And then we had surveys done by the band members that were attending these State of the Bands. And one of the questions and some of the answers we got was that the State of the Band went too long, and they said that we didn't have to hear all the council members talk. And so then we started where, as each council member would get up, talk, and I'd get up and do financial report, and then the chair would get up and give the address for the state, what we did for the last year, and then what we were planning for the coming year. And so this is the first time that I got a chance to come up now and talk in probably 4 years, maybe 5 years even. But I lost my wife 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago this May. She had a liver transplant in 2014, and shortly after we got the transplant, we started experiencing problems. But again, in April of 2016, they told us that she needed a second transplant. And she had a lot of medical problems. She fell several times, and she fractured vertebrae in her back, fractured her hip, broke her elbow another time, and she was always by my side. She was she did all my mailings for me when I ran every time. She was probably my biggest supporter. and I'm gonna, like I said, thank you. But again, she passed away, and I think about her every day, and I miss her every day. And my son bought me this chain because we both attend church in the Net Lake Baptist Church, and the two rings that I wear around on the chain are our anniversary rings that I bought her over the years. And one ring is a 10-year anniversary ring, and the other ring is a 30-year anniversary ring. And she passed away on May 20th of 2017. And it was just one day shy of our 40th wedding anniversary on May 21st. Well, it would have been our 40th wedding anniversary. And so I bought her a ring that I was going to give to her. And I purposely left it at the jeweler because I knew if I got it, I was going to give it to her sooner. She never got to see the ring that I bought her. But it's on her finger now. And thank you again. But I want to also tell you that her and I were very close, and I just want to say something to all the men that are sitting in this room today that are married, or if you have a significant other and you're with your better half, I'm going to say. If you're with them for a long time, kiss them every night, kiss them every morning, kiss them every chance you get. Hold hands, because we always held hands. Even when I was riding down the road and I'd be driving, she'd be sitting on the passenger side, and I reach over and hold her hand. And she said she always liked that. She said she always liked that touching. And so, all you men that are here, don't forget how you when you first met the girl that you wanted to marry, and how you wanted to spend the rest of your life with her, and what you took to sweep her off her feet. Just continue that tradition. Don't just because you're married after 10 or 15 years, you're going to forget about her. Don't do that. And recognize them at the anniversary. Recognize them at Valentine's Day. Recognize them at Christmas time. Flowers. She always liked that when I got her flowers. And so that's something that I'm recommending to men that are in here today. So look out for your ladies. Touch them all the time. Hold hands with them. Kiss them as many times as you can during the daytime, because once they're gone, once you're gone, you're gonna miss that. But I kind of didn't look forward to speaking tonight because I knew what I wanted to tell you. But again, I thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to turn it back over to Jenna so she can turn it back over to Kath and get on with the main speech here and get some rounds of applause from her for her. And again, with that, I'm going to close her up here and turn it back over to Jenna. And again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And we'll see each other again someday. Okay, Gwitch.
One thing I will add is every one of our ceremonies, special ceremonies, like today,
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Shane. Thanks, Dave. So next, we're going to bring back up Chairwoman Chavers to deliver her State of the Band address.
Sorry, getting prepared here. Thank you, Dave, for that. I know how hard that was for you, and really appreciate it. It's right from here, right from the heart. So miigwech, Dave, and we really appreciate that, and we miss Teresa too. Bonjour, good afternoon. I'm very honored to be with you today for the 2019 Bois Forte State of the Band address. I want to take this opportunity to say miigwech to the drum group, the honor guard, and the veterans, of course, all of you who have served, miigwech, and also to the staff that have been here. Of course, everybody said that already. Everybody took my speech, kind of, so. To our honored guests that are here, I see Representative Stauber made it. Thank you, sir, for coming today. I want you to know that our friendships and partnerships with you all are something that we will continue for years to come, and that we know that we can move forward and accomplish many great things together as friends and comrades. So miigwech to all of you for being here tonight. It's a great honor. Now on to the, thank you, Alan. Now on to the State of the Band address. As we look at the past year, it has been a year of ups and downs for us, but I must say, Bois Forte is in a better way this year than ever before. We have stabilized and improved slowly what direction we want to go for the future and for the next 7 generations to come. I want to let everyone know that with our 2 new council members, Shane and Chief, and with David and myself and Travis as being veterans of the council, that we work together as a team. And we always do it for the betterment of the tribe and the tribal members. We don't always agree. We have our moments, we have our arguments, I could say, but we can always agree to disagree, and we leave it in the room. We work together well, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but it's really hard for a woman to work with 4 guys. Especially when they're bratty. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Some days I just shake my head. But it's really an honor to work with these guys, and we're really, I think, gonna make great progress. As you heard from Dave, Shane, Chief, and Trav didn't want to talk, so, but that's okay. There's many things that go on, and if I was going to talk about everything that goes on every day with what we had to do, we'd never get to eat. So I know you guys are getting hungry, and so I'll just highlight some certain moments today. The Tribal Council is going to be concentrating on land acquisition. For most of you that don't know, the reservation, within the reservation boundaries is a checkerboard. We don't own a lot of our land within the boundaries. So what we did is we've made land acquisition one of our priorities, and it will be a continuing priority until we own all the land within the reservation boundary. You heard Dave mention the Mct Land Transfer, which is 32,000 acres of land that we can get back entitled to the Bois Forte. So that's a plus. That's a big plus because that's been on the radar for the MCT for many, many years. And finally, it's on its way to hopefully legislation to get this accomplished. But a majority of the land is also owned by other companies within the boundaries. And one of those companies is Potlatch Delco. Used to be called Potlatch, but now they've added Delco. And what we are doing now is we're working with Potlatch Delco, the Bois Forte Forestry, the Bois Forte DNR, the Planning Department and Community Development, and our Realty Department. And we have developed a 10-year plan now to try to obtain some of our parcels back, buy them back from Potlatch Delco. Right now, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but there's about 500,000 acres that Potlatch owns within the boundaries of Bois Forte. And so what we've done is we've gone through with that group I mentioned, and we've strategically selected land for timber harvesting, for hunting, and also for borders. We are in the process of working with Potlatch-Delco on this plan, and we're going to be continuing to do so in the near future. So it's in the works. We're really planning on it. Another priority area that we really haven't addressed, which the council agrees upon, is the drug and alcohol epidemic, especially the opioid epidemic, which is not only plaguing Bois Forte, but the entire country, and it's taking our people way too soon. We have taken steps in areas that needed improvement, and there's a lot of areas that have needed improvement throughout Bois Forte. A few years back, the Bureau of Indian Affairs evaluated all the tribal court systems in the country, and then they did recommendations on ways to improve the tribal courts. Well, our staff applied for what's called the CTAS grant, and we were funded money for a period of 3 years to help improve our court systems and also to update our tribal code, which is totally outdated. And then also it is allowing us more staffing. We have very limited staffing, and we need software, technology, and we also need security, and which will allow us to get a metal detector for our courts. And so with the CTAS grant, we can accomplish some of those recommendations. Then our tribal court building needed a very much upgrade because our attorneys were meeting with their clients in their cars outside the tribal court building just for privacy. And we had victims and we had accusers in the same lobby. I mean, that's how small our court system was, our court building. And so, excuse me for a minute, getting dry. With the help of the Shakopee, Metawakan, and Sioux, we did receive a $1.2 million grant 3 years ago, almost 4, to update our DNR court building. Well, we found out we couldn't do it with just the DNR, so we just did the court building. The DNR is on hold now for future. But anyway, we also received $900,000 worth of funding in contract support costs that were unrestricted, so we could use towards our tribal court building. We hired a contractor at large, and that was MB Customs, and they provided the construction for the tribal court building. And I would like to say that at least, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say at least 85 to 90% of that construction crew was Bois Forte band members that worked on this tribal court building. This building is now almost near completed. We'll be having a grand opening on May 30th, and we're very much excited for that. So anybody that wants to is willing to come, and we're really looking forward to utilizing our new court building. Okay. Also, to assist law enforcement with this ongoing drug issue, the Tribal Council purchased our own drug dog to be stationed with our own tribal police officer. So we bought Officer Mika. Officer Mika is now a member of the Bois Forte Law Enforcement, and she will stay with the tribe for the duration of her service. And I know Chief got to meet Officer Mika right away, and Officer Mika scratched the heck out of his car, so he wasn't too happy about that. But Officer Mika was really happy to see Chief. I don't know why, but anyway, so we do have our own drug dog, which we're very happy to have that. And we're also working on an agreement with St. Louis County for a jail facility for short term. Right now we have to send our prisoners to Sherburne County, which is 4 hours one way, if something happens here at Vermilion or in Net Lake. One way. So you're talking about an officer being away from the reservation for a period of 8 hours just to transport a prisoner. So we are this close, John and Nate, I know we're that close to getting where we only have to transport our prisoners to St. Louis County. And that is a half hour to an hour away. So that will help us out tremendously. The safety of Bois Forte can't be put in dollar amounts, but when the officers are away, that concerns us. That's the safety of the reservation. The other area that we need to focus on, that we as a council have agreed to focus on in the upcoming year and many years to come, is the treatment and healing of our people. Right now, we know that there are no treatment facilities available with beds. If there are, you're on a waiting list. For those of you that don't know, if you're an addict or addicted or have an alcohol problem, when you want to go to treatment, you want to go now, not a week from now, not 2 weeks from now. You need the help now. If you can't capture them now, it's sad because they have to wait. You may not get them back. We have some property in Ely that the tribe acquired, and it's called the Johnson Lake property. We've had a couple immersion camps there. It's beautiful, pristine, God's country, right on Johnson Lake. And what we want to do, and I don't like to use the word treatment. I think a lot of you have heard me say that. I like to use the word healing. We want to build a healing center. And we want to either use it for aftercare or use it as an educational facility for medicinal plants, but use it as a more cultural perspective for healing for our people rather than the traditional treatment methods that are out there, because we know our culture can heal. And so we're going to be looking at that and hopefully utilizing collaborations and partnerships and possible ways to turn this property into a healing center. We'll also be looking into medication-assisted treatment or a MAP program to be implemented within the clinic setting here at Lake Vermilion Tower and Net Lake. This is ongoing, but it's a must priority of the Tribal Council because we want our people to heal. The recent government shutdown affected Bois Forte greatly. The longest shutdown in American history, and timing of the shutdown impacted us, and it affected staff and the staff morale the most. But no services were cut, and we learned a lot from this and are now implementing a contingency plan for any future shutdowns. We have also met with our Fortune Bay accounting staff and our government accounting staff to set up emergency restricted funds in the event of the next shutdown. This is the first time that both the Fortune Bay and government accounting, along with the Tribal Council, have sat down and are implementing a more realistic distribution to the tribal government using a percentage amount as opposed to a set dollar amount. From this will also be another percentage amount set aside yearly for the emergency restricted fund. That fund can only be accessed in the state of emergency and only if all 5 council members approve it. We have been working diligently also with regard to workforce development. We're finding that the way we did things or the way we do things now is not working. It's not working. It's just not working at all. And so one of the statements we hear from band members is, I can't get a job, I can't get a job. And so we need to give our tribal members the needed services, resources, and skills to gain employment. Not only on the reservation, but off the reservation so they can be successful in life. Bois Forte recently used to have what's called the 477 program. We lost that program many years ago. The 477 program allows a combination of programs and services to be combined to where the tribe can utilize those services as best that they feel can meet the need of the tribe. And it also combines reporting requirements for those services. So we did apply, and I want to commend Billy Isham for that. She did reapply for the 477 program, and we received it. So right now at the Tribal Government Building, we are in the process of implementing our own workforce development department. And we know it's important for our band members to get that one-stop shop where you can get your services you need. Maybe you need emergency assistance. Maybe you need help with education. Maybe you need help with training. Maybe you need help with an application, maybe a resume, maybe interviewing skills, whatever. This one-stop shop is where it's going to be, and it's going to be located in the tribal government building. We really feel that our people need the skills necessary to make it in life and to be successful. But if you don't have those skills, you struggle. And so we will be getting those departments. We've done some reorganization a little bit, and we're in the process of setting up that department within the tribal government building itself. And we are running into problems from the government side with finding people for jobs. We've got jobs, but we don't have people applying for them. People are, how can I say, we're recycling our own workers. We have workers jumping from job to job because we don't have any new people coming in to work. And so that's what we're hoping this workforce development will help with. We need counselors, we need accounting people, we need maintenance, we need every kind of worker you can imagine, but we can't get people to apply. And some of them don't have driver's license. Well, let's get your driver's license. Let's figure out how we can get that started. If you have a drug issue, let's get you to some healing. Let's get you to the treatment. Let's get that fixed. We have to do something. We can't just stand back and keep watching this happen. Our culture and language is also very important to us. And through KBFT radio station and the MIAC legacy funding that we receive, we have had the ability to bring numerous Native American events and programs right here to Nett Lake and Vermilion. And I want to commend the KBFT staff along with Chaz Wagner for doing this. It's really nice when you can just go out the door, down the road, and there's an event going on where you don't have to travel to Cook or Virginia to go see something. So this has been a very big benefit for us, and it's also helped us with our language and our culture. And we're looking forward to many more things coming from it in the future. So it's a great job by our staff, and I really want to say thank you for that. There have been comments also about economic development and what are we doing about this. And of course, as Shane mentioned, the council recognized what has happened in the past, and the diversification was tried with different businesses, but some failed, and we still have some here. Shane mentioned we passed the resolution where economic development and business will need to be put to the band members first, which I think is a big plus because we represent the band. We don't represent ourselves, okay? So that was one of the reasons I think for putting this resolution forward is that we need to hear from the band members what they want, what they feel is our direction. We'll make sure that when we do these types of, if we do any type of economic development, of course there's always going to be feasibility studies, marketing studies, all these types of things that are needed. And then once, if the band gives us that opportunity, we will strive to do whatever we can to reach that goal. We strongly believe in band member input, especially in this important area. As far as our existing businesses, Fortune Bay has had the opportunity to do upgrades throughout the building, from carpeting to new machines, to a new roof, to a new generator. God, we needed a generator big time. We must reinvest in our existing businesses to maintain the tourism and our destination strategy. If we don't do that, we're failing. We have to reinvest. Years past, as you know, we didn't have the ability to reinvest, but we have taken a cut from the tribal government side to allow Fortune Bay to reinvest in themselves. We went from over $5 million of distribution down to 2.6. We know the importance of reinvesting in our businesses. We have just finished a 10-year report for the tribal membership for the past distributions to the tribal government, and this will be sent to each band member after the State of the Band. It has been a long time coming, and we want to be accountable to our tribal membership. This 10-year report will show you where the Fortune Bay distributions were distributed to, what programs, and it took a lot of work on Kim Griner's part and Fortune Bay's accounting department also, because 10 years is a long time to go back. But we will get that report out to you. We're also trying to improve on our communication for the band. We're upgrading our tribal website this year. And we also have implemented, woohoo, a Facebook page to try and improve the communication to band members. We want to mention also, or I do, that this past year, and it's kind of been like a year and a half, because we're supposed to have this State of the Band in January, but of course of the government shutdown we couldn't. But it's been very historic for tribals, people, for nations, tribal nations, in so many ways. First, we had the addition of 2 female senators, Native American female senators, to the Congress, which doubled our number in Congress to 4 Native Americans. Then, woohoo, yay, yay. Then we also had the first Native American woman, plus a White Earth band member. Kudos, all right, White Earth, come on. Peggy Flanagan was elected as Lieutenant Governor along with Governor Walz. It is an exciting time in the state of Minnesota for tribes. On President's Day was another historic event. The Minnesota House of Representatives held Tribal Sovereignty Day. All 11 tribes were invited to the House while in session to educate legislators on who we are and where we came from. Professor Tad Johnson, Bois Forte band member, and Rebecca Crook-Stanton from the Shakopee tribe also provided education to the House. This was the first time in Minnesota history for this type of event, and it was an honor to be a part of that. All of us are saying that from a tribal leader standpoint. Also, I just want to say many thanks to my fellow MCT leaders, and I am truly honored that I was also a part of history, being elected as the first female president of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. Miigwech to my fellow leaders. We will continue to move forward, and we know we can't dwell in the past, and we will not progress if we do. We owe it to the next six, no blah, 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 blah. Cheers. This is vodka. I'm sorry. We owe it to our next 7 generations. There. That just took that whole out of context. Also, though, on a last note, please remember, this year is the 2020 census, and it's extremely important that we be counted. We know that in the past census, a lot of us were not counted. And when I say a lot of us Native Americans were not counted. We need to be counted. We need to make sure we check that box and say we are a Bois Forte band member. Yes, thank you. Woo! Because if we don't, our funding relies a lot on the census. And so we really need to make our voices heard, ourselves counted. So please be sure and participate and make sure you complete the census. With that, I want to thank you all for being here. Miigwech for coming, and I really am honored to be your leader. Miigwech.
Thank you, Chairwoman Chavers. Before we start dinner, I'd like to invite up our spiritual advisor, Jean Goodsky, for the dinner blessing. Is he hiding? Dinner blessing.